When university students take a hike in New Jersey's Apshawa Preserve, they come across a black bear. Rather than backing away slowly, they stop to take photos, and the bear sees its chance. Moments later, it charges, and the group of friends scatter in different directions. But one of them is left behind. Hit like and subscribe. This is Fierce. Apshawa Preserve lies in the highlands of northern New Jersey, about 40 miles northwest of New York City. It's a forested area of more than 570 acres. Its network of hiking trails weave through the woodland and alongside the large reservoir at its center. The preserve is abundant in deer, which serve as prey for the population of black bears. Darsh Patel was a final-year student at Rutgers University in New Jersey. He was studying information technology and decided to head to the countryside one weekend with 4 of his friends. It was Sunday, September 21, 2014, and the group had arrived at Apshawa Preserve. They set off on one of the well-marked trails, breathing in the fresh air and talking happily amongst themselves. They were a close-knit group of friends, but something was about to go horribly wrong. Their voices traveled on the air, alerting a black bear to their presence. Normally, bears would avoid human conflict and, unless unexpectedly startled, would head the other way. But this one was hungry. There had been a poor acorn and berry harvest that season, and food reserves were dwindling. With more than 2,400 bears living in the forests of northern New Jersey, you would expect conflicts between humans and bears to be relatively common, but this wasn't the case. As the group of friends continued along the path, they glanced behind them. They saw a black bear walking towards them through the trees. It didn't seem threatening and lumbered along at a slow pace. Darsh immediately pulled out his mobile phone and snapped a few photos, as did the others. It was the first time Darsh had seen one of these magnificent animals in the wild. Immediately, their heart rates quickened when they spotted it, but it didn't seem interested in them, so they continued walking. But they were wrong. This bear was very interested in them and continued to pursue them. When they looked back over their shoulders again, they could see that the bear was closing the gap between them, but there was nowhere for them to go. They couldn't climb the trees, and new bears were exceptional climbers anyway. Instead, they quickened their pace, continually turning around to check where the bear was. The bear clambered over a fallen tree trunk and made headway toward the students. With its persistence, the friends began to panic. The bear wasn't stopping. It wasn't turning back around. It was heading directly for them. They had no means of defense, no bear spray, and no firearm. And still, the bear seemed calm. But the bear knew what it was doing. It was hunting them, closing the gap before it could launch its attack. When it was just 15 feet from them, they knew it was time to get out of there. Ignoring all bear protocol, someone in the group shouted, "Run!" and they charged off in the opposite direction, scattering amongst the trees. The wild instinct in the bear to chase its prey was immediately ignited, and it broke out into a sprint. It charged at the youngsters and singled out Darsh. He could hear it behind him, the crashing of branches, the snapping of twigs as it thundered over the forest floor. He dared not look back over his shoulder. He just knew he needed to run as fast as he could to safer ground. In front of him was a rocky outcrop. In a desperate attempt to get up and out of the way of the charging bear, he scrambled up the rock face. His other friends turned around to see where the bear was, and that's when they saw Darsh scaling the boulders with the bear in hot pursuit. He shouted at them to keep moving. "Keep going," he yelled. "Go, go, go!" But it was the wrong move. The group should have stuck together. They should have made themselves appear as large as possible, talking loudly but calmly to the bear, while slowly backing away. Instead, Darsh was on his own, and the 300-pound, 135-kilogram male black bear was upon him. It launched itself on top of the young man and sent him crashing to the ground. The attack was ferocious. The bear grabbed Darsh's flesh in its jaws and ripped at him, tugging and pulling, thrashing its head from side to side. In the commotion, Darsh tried to fight back. He tried to push the animal off him and protect himself. But the bites kept coming, ripping through his clothing, tearing at muscle. The sharp, curved claws dug into Darsh's back as he was pinned to the ground. The bear wasn't defending its territory or its young. It was searching for food, and it had found it. Only minutes later, it delivered a fatal bite to the back of Darsh's neck. He was still. He had died alone in the woods while his friends scampered away. An innate instinct to run in the face of danger had overwhelmed them, but in the case of a predatory bear attack, there is very little you can do. If the bear is intent on taking down prey, then it will often stop at nothing. If the friends had all stayed together, would they have all become victims of an attack that day, or would the bear have retreated? No one knows for sure. There was no sign of Darsh. They yelled his name, hoping that he would appear by their side at any moment, but there wasn't an answer. Only the autumnal breeze rattled through the trees. Fearing something terrible had happened to their friend, they immediately called the emergency services. West Milford police rushed to the preserve and found Darsh's anxious friends. They took the police to the spot where they had last seen the bear. They searched high and low for the missing student, but it wasn't until 2 hours later that they came across a gruesome discovery. The body of Darsh was found lying face down on the ground, and circling him, about 30 yards away, was a black bear. The police clapped their hands and shouted loudly to scare the bear away, but it didn't move. They threw rocks and sticks at the animal, but to no avail. Instead, it kept circling back around, determined not to leave the body. When the officers approached, the bear charged at them, its jowls dripping and wet. It had been feasting on its kill and was protecting its cache. The police fired at the bear and it fell to the ground. They rushed to Darsh's side, but it was clear that he was gone. Tragically, he had succumbed to his injuries, and the bear had been tucking in. A necropsy on the bear found human remains and torn clothing inside its gut. It was a healthy male, but it was stocking up on reserves to last the harsh cold winter months ahead. Darsh was incredibly unlucky. Neither he nor his group of friends had done anything to entice the bear. The only food Darsh had on him was a granola bar. When the officers retrieved Darsh's phone, there were tooth marks across it, and in the camera reel there were 5 photos of the bear. In the first photo, the black bear was about 100 feet away from the camera, approaching the fallen tree it had then clambered over. Then, in the subsequent shots, the bear was noticeably closer to the camera. In a cruel twist of fate, Darsh had stopped to snap the wildlife just moments before it took his life. Locals often see bears in the area. They rarely cause any trouble or nuisance in the neighborhood and are easily frightened away if someone makes a loud noise or shouts at them. Knowing that a young student had been killed in the preserve was a shock to many. Darsh was the first person known to have been killed by a bear in the history of the state of New Jersey.